Hello, my name is Philip Totaro. I'm the founder and CEO of market research firm IntelStor. Welcome to your weekly dose of truth to power. Truth to Power examines data driven insights for the energy sector with a focus on renewables. On this week's episode, we're continuing our analysis from the IntelStor Future of Renewables report to look at generation and efficiency and capacity factor data. The world has generated a collective 10.795 petawatt hours of renewable energy as of the end of 2025, with 52.24% of global generation coming from the Asia Pacific region. 26% came from the Americas, 18.97% came from Europe, and just 2.8% came from Africa and the Middle Eastern region. By 2030, we expect to see a total generation of close to 13 petawatt hours, with the distribution largely the same globally. For each power plant, regardless of the technology that they utilize, there's a theoretical maximum of 8,760 hours per year that it could operate if it were at 100% capacity for the full year. Actual full load hours will typically be much less than that maximum, and we've measured the combined total produced for all renewable energy technologies in each global region. This is a precursor to calculating the net capacity factor for each technology and each region, as shown in the subsequent analysis. Despite leading the world in installed capacity and even generation from renewable energy sources, the Asia Pacific region shows a combined full load hours across all technologies as the second lowest of all the global regions. Europe actually leads the world, with the Americas second and Africa and the Middle East rounding out the global regions in last place. Europe leads the world with the highest average capacity factor across all technology, but it also leads in 7 out of the 12 renewable energy technology categories as well. The Americas are second overall in global average capacity factor, and they lead the way in 3 of the technology categories. While Africa and Middle Eastern countries have the lowest overall average capacity factor globally, they actually lead the world in 2 technology categories: concentrated solar power and hydropower. The reason why they lead the world in hydropower is that they have more recently installed equipment that has a higher average efficiency than older technology that's been in use in the Americas or Europe for a substantial number of years. And as I mentioned before, despite leading the world in installed capacity for renewable energy technology, the Asia Pacific region does not actually lead the world in any of the 12 renewable energy technology categories. That includes solar PV and that includes onshore wind. The evolution of capacity factor is interesting since the industry has shifted away from a large proportion of hydropower deployment back in the year 2000 to more solar PV and onshore wind energy, which operate at lower average capacity factors in general when compared to hydropower. This has led to an overall reduction in capacity factors across the renewable energy technologies since the year 2000. But asset repowering for onshore wind and solar PV should start to improve performance across the board and increase global average capacity factors back to the year 2000 levels we saw by the year 2040. Europe has seen the least amount of drop off in performance, while Africa and the Middle East has seen average capacity factors reduced by about 6% in the past 25 years. This is mainly due to the adoption of solar PV throughout Africa. Feed-in tariffs have helped the world to see rapid growth of renewable energy in the past 25 years. The average prices paid per region range from $63.76 per megawatt hour in the Americas to upwards of $112.31 per megawatt hour in Europe. With the exception of solid biofuels, the feed-in tariffs in Europe across all other renewable energy technologies have consistently averaged above $100 a megawatt hour. Solid biofuels still averaged $90.75 per megawatt hour in Europe. European governments have been quite resistant to extending such high feed-in tariffs, often preferring power offtake auctions which have zero subsidy. But this appears to be too extreme of an approach, and even though there have been some auctions which have been completed at a zero subsidy, that should not necessarily become the norm. There would appear to be a middle ground that could be achieved so that renewable energy capacity additions can continue to flourish. China has also contributed heavily to their domestic growth by fostering the exorbitant use of feed-in tariffs as well. So much so that they were forced to discontinue their federal feed-in tariff regime for solar PV in 2019 and onshore wind in 2020. Their shift to guarantee a price floor comparable to coal prices in their merchant markets for those technologies has still nevertheless provided the renewable energy sector with a substantial incentive to deploy renewable energy capacity. That's because for a lot of the solar PV companies, the new price floor was actually higher than the subsidized price that they were getting with the feed-in tariffs before. In recent years, annual public finance has been somewhat evenly distributed throughout the world, but the USA has actually leveraged the least amount of public finance to help facilitate renewable energy capacity additions. Public finance dipped in 2020 and 2021 off record highs in 2016 due to the necessity of diverting some public funds to developing vaccines and providing other emergency response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The most recently reported data from the OECD indicates that public finance has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels and was just over 24.85 billion in the most recently reported year. On average, about 16% of annual public finance expenditure is allocated to the Americas, about 18.5 to 25% to the Asia Pacific region, 25 to 33% to Europe, and 22 to 29% to Africa and Middle Eastern countries. Total expenditure for renewable energy technologies in the past 25 years has been $396.6 billion, with 29.6% in the Americas, 25.8% in Africa and the Middle East, 22.3% in Asia Pacific, and 22.3% in Europe. Much of the annual total is still allocated to hydropower, with more than 5.4 billion, or about 22% of the most recent annual total of $24.85 billion. Curiously, though, solid biofuels have seen a surge in spending coming close to 50% of the total annual allocation. Hydropower has dropped precipitously from just under 74% of the total annual spend back in 2003 to just over 22% by 2023. There are some enormous disparities between technologies in terms of capital efficiency, as well as many inconsistencies like Africa, where significant money was spent on investigating the viability of renewable energy technology, but it didn't actually result in meaningful technology deployment and capacity additions. For every megawatt of renewable energy capacity deployed in the Asia Pacific region, only $28,000 per installed megawatt of public finance was leveraged for the capacity installed since the year 2000. Europe has averaged $86,000 per installed megawatt in public finance. The Americas was at $116,000 per megawatt in public finance across all the various renewable energy technologies. By contrast, Africa and the Middle Eastern countries received an astonishing $703,000 per installed megawatt in public finance, with total capacity additions in the past 25 years at just 78.8 gigawatts. This is extremely concerning by itself. However, we will not allocate that result entirely to some type of systemic corruption. There are some legitimate logistical challenges with renewable energy technology deployment in the region. First of all, lack of existing infrastructure has led to transportation issues for wind turbine components, and the necessary electrical infrastructure is not as robust in the Africa and Middle Eastern countries as it is in the rest of the world, of course. This should cause a modest discrepancy in cost efficiency, but one which we hope to investigate in further detail in future episodes of Truth to Power. In the meantime, thank you for joining me this week. I'm Philip Totaro, and this has been your weekly dose of Truth to Power. We'll have more to come from this IntelStor exclusive report, The Future of Renewables, next time on Truth to Power. You can follow us on IntelStor's YouTube channel as well as your favorite audio platforms. And visit www.intelstor.com to join more than 250,000 subscribers to our renewable energy data solutions. We're adding subscribers faster than ever, so don't miss out. Register today. A full analysis of the global renewable energy market is available to online subscribers of this new exclusive IntelStor report, The Future of Renewables. And don't forget to register today for the next Wind Summit event in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Visit www.windsummit.org and join hundreds of your industry colleagues to discuss all the latest trends in operations and maintenance. We hope to see you there.